Before we start actually applying materials to these objects, you need to decide where to store the palette file material definitions for the 4 objects. You're going to be creating 4 definitions, some derived from MicroStation's existing palette files and some from scratch. Now, it's a good idea to create a palette file specific to your project, and this allows you to import MicroStation definitions into your palette for editing, and again because you don't want to redefine the standard MicroStation definitions, as I mentioned in the previous video. The actual material assignments you make will be saved in the material table file with the default mod153D file name, which is what we can see here. That's our material table name. So the first thing to do then is to create a new palette file and save it to our folder. So go to Palette and New. And here's our new palette file at the bottom. Let's give it a name. We'll call it Table. And naturally at this point there are no material definitions in our table palette file. So let's rectify that right now. Let's scoot up to the top here. And I want to choose a material for the shade of the lamp, which will give me a sort of woven material effect. And I'm going to select this fabric grey blue weave as my material. So that I want to transfer to my own palette. So I'm going to right click that definition and click on Copy, scoot down to my new palette file, right click on the table and paste. So right now if I open mine, I will see my fabric grey blue weave material. Now right now it's in blue and it's in italic, meaning it's not been saved yet. So let's clear things up a little bit. Now I don't need this standard carpet and fabric palette anymore, so I get 2 choices. I can minimize it, or ideally, since I don't need it anymore, I can right click it and unload it. So now it's disappeared from the material editor. I can always bring it back again if I need to. Right now in my table, which is open, I see the fabric grey blue weave, and I don't need to save it because the icon is not active. Now here is the definition for that material, and we'll be editing that in the next video. But right now I want to assign this material to the actual shade before we do the editing. Now you can do this actually either way. You can edit the materials right now and apply it to the shade, or you can apply it to the shade as is and then edit later. Either way works fine. I tend to add material to the object first and then edit, because as I edit, I'll see the changes here and I'll see the changes in the preview window. So let's do that right now. And the method I'm going to use first, here are our assignment methods. I'm going to assign the material. So click on that. Up pops the Assign Material box. What I'm doing here is assigning this material to a specific level and a specific color. In this case, the shade level and the red color. Now, if you look at the information in this box here, you see that we have a table name, which is the same as the table name here. We have the palette that we're working in, which is Table. That's this one. And we have the material. That's our grey blue weave. We click on the material assignments here to open this settings box. And here I select the level and the color for my lampshade. Well, the level is shade and the color is red. Select both of those and we say apply, and we see the shade level color 3 pop into the box, meaning that every element on the shade level, which is colored red, will be assigned this material. Now this is a pretty wide-ranging thing if you think about it. Every object on that level with that color will have this material applied to it, which is a very quick method of applying the same material to lots of different objects at the same time, but it has to be what you want. There are many occasions when you have objects on the same level with the same color that you don't want the same material, so you would not use this method to do that. However, we've only have one shade on one level, so this is fine. So let's do that right now. So we'll click on OK. Notice that the shade now assumes the material, and we see that displayed. Not very well right now because this is just a shaded view. It'll look a lot better when we actually render it. Now before we do, you may still have the cube shown here in the preview, and you can change that here by selecting cylinder, which makes a little more sense for a lampshade. And the same over here with this one too. If you right click this preview and in this case select cylinder, then you'll see the cylinder. And it's quite useful to change the shape of this preview to suit the kind of element that you're working with. Now, before we do render this, just let me go back to this, bring this up again. Now, I've done this the long way. I've selected the shade, I've selected the color, went to apply, and so on. What you can do is when this box is active and on the screen, you can simply go across and select an element, and it will automatically pick up its level and its color and pop it into the box here. We did it the long way so you understood how the process worked. So I'll get rid of that right now. And let's go in and render this. But before I do, I need to turn everything off in terms of lights. Now, right now, I have my default lighting on. I want to turn that off. And if I go to my light manager, I have ambient on, don't want that on. I have solar on, don't want that on. And all I actually want are the point light and the spotlight that you applied when you first drew the table assembly. So just those two lights should be in place, nothing else. That's good. So let's do a render. So I'm going to use a fence. Just going to render the shade, that's all. Bring up Luxology and click on that. And here's my shade. We can boost the light a little bit. Not too bad at all. You can see the effect of the point light inside the shade, which is burning out a lot of the material back here. But that's quite typical when you think about it. There's a bright light inside this shade. So just try that and see what effects you see. It should look very similar. Okay, move on to the next video and we'll make some changes to the actual material itself.